Hi, everybody, and welcome to installment 3 of me on YouTube. And thanks so much for the wonderful comments and the interesting questions, some of which I will answer right now. BrainWrap asks, can you explain the process by which you rate films for the Leonard Maltin Movie Guide? How do your colleagues weigh in? Do you get the trump card? What about changing ratings, like upping The Godfather from 3.5 to 4 stars? Well, I should have done that a long time before I did. Now, do I get the trump card? Of course I do. What's the point of being the boss if you can't have the trump card? But it's a collaborative process, and I don't see every movie that goes in. We put in about 300 new movies every year. I would guess I see and rate about half of those. But if one of my colleagues, one of my contributing editors, gives a 4-star review to a film I've heard is terrible, then either I'll assign it to someone else, or else I'll have to be kind of a tiebreaker and then go out of my way to make sure I see it and decide what rating it will get. As for how do we decide as a whole, gut feeling. It's the only way I can describe it, a gut feeling. I know a 3-star movie when I see it. I know a 2-star movie when I see it. I've been doing it a long time. It just feels natural. Black Viper G says, what is your favorite Billy Wilder film and why? This is tough because I like so many of his films. He's one of my very favorite filmmakers as writer and director. And usually it's the one I've seen most recently that sort of stays in my consciousness. I revisited Ace in the Hole not long ago when Criterion put it out on DVD and Blu-ray. What a terrific movie. Boy, tough movie with Kirk Douglas, but awfully, awfully good. Great atmosphere, great dialogue, great attitude and outlook. And then I revisited one of his earlier films, Five Graves to Cairo, which I've always liked but hadn't seen in a long time. It holds up just fine. Great role for Erich von Stroheim before Wilder put him in Sunset Boulevard. But as I say, I could make a long list of favorite Billy Wilder films. Mark Monluck says, do you collect autographs? Yes, I do. When I started out as a young fan, I asked for autographs and then tried to get photos to get people to sign 8x10 stills. And then I started feeling a little funny about that, a little maybe tacky at times. And I realized that where I really appreciated the autograph or the signature more than anywhere else is in a book. So I've made a point of trying to get people to sign copies of their autobiographies and to get authors to sign their books in general. That's got more of a tradition to it. It doesn't seem quite as fan-like as just pressing a piece of paper in front of somebody, or even a still. But I love having the autographs I do. One of the first ones I got was from Buster Keaton when I was 13 years old. That gave me a lifetime memory, and it's hanging on my wall. Let's see. Disney TV for Me says, how has film restoration changed in recent years? Where's it going? Well, the answer is digital. And while there are debates about the validity and the advantages or disadvantages of digital technology, it's been a boon to film restoration because you can correct things now digitally that you can't do photochemically. Jitter, film that's shaking around too much, a tear, an actual tear in the negative, broken sprockets, painting out scratches, all sorts of things that are now possible, and you can then output the final results, if you want to, back to film. You can do all this work digitally and wind up with still a 35mm print that you can project on a projector if anybody still has those to use in the future. That's another big subject we can't go into now. It'll take too long. But I think it would be foolish to dismiss digital technology, and that's why restorationists, preservationists have embraced it as a tool, as a very useful tool. Even the ones who still love 35mm know that digital can improve what they do. Bobby Burns says, what was one of the first movies that gave me a deeper respect or appreciation for film as an art form? Well, it's not so much a film as a person. When I was in my teens, the first director I ever heard or encountered in person was the great Rouben Mamoulian, who was a man of the theater who came to film in the early days of talkies and brought a lot of innovative ideas with him. His first talkie, Applause, was a real groundbreaking movie. And he did incredible work later with Frederick March and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He directed the first full Technicolor feature, Becky Sharp. And he was, even in his later years, an incredibly articulate even eloquent man. And I was a kid, and I never thought about who made the movies. I thought about the movies and who was in them until I heard Mamoulian speak with screenings of several of his movies in New York. And that's what made me think and appreciate for the first time the person behind the camera, the director behind the camera. He was an inspiring man to listen to, and I feel very grateful that I had that opportunity. Opened windows to me that have never closed. I'm going to wrap this up because I think that shorter is better on YouTube, but I wanted to make good on my promise to talk about collectibles, and we'll do more of this in the future. But right now I'm sitting next to something that wouldn't have been considered a collectible 25 years ago, certainly not 50 years ago or 75 years ago. This is a moviola. This is the machine on which every film in the world was edited pretty much for something like 75 years. It was an invaluable tool. It's actually a trade name like Xerox or Kleenex, not a generic. The moviola was invented by a particular man in 1924 and was very quickly adopted by virtually everybody making movies. The first version didn't look exactly like this because they didn't have to account for sound. It didn't have to have a separate sound head as this does. And they made improvements over the years. But this one saw a lot of use. And if you're wondering about the red bow, it was a present. And I can't bear to take the bow off of it. It was a present to me after a wonderful series of interviews I did with Roger Corman, because he was an early adopter of digital technology, and he didn't have any use for his moviolas anymore. And I thought I'd love to have one as a collectible. What a great collectible to have, with a nice history too. So that's it for now. Please keep sending questions and comments. I love them. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. If you want to see something else, I'm going to do a little rant about a pet peeve of mine. Click the next video and you'll hear what I have to say about that.